Dorks and Forks.
Lights, camera, action. It's 1969 and Hollywood is moving away from the Western serials and away from actor Rick Dalton. The weirdos and the hippies are taking over cinema, and Quentin Tarantino is here to tell their story. I'm Jay Bump, and today we'll be discussing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in case you missed it.
Anybody order fried sauerkraut?
What if I'm in the movie?
I just figured we would. I got a six-pack in the back. Thought we'd order pizza. All right. You're a little man with a big mouth and a big chip. And I think you should be embarrassed to suggest you be anything more than a stain on the seat of Cassius Clay's trunk.
What the is going on here? Hey, this is our series lead.
Can I help you?
I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business.
Welcome back. This is the In Case You Missed It podcast where we review recently released titles to streaming services and Redbox. Again, I'm Jay Bump, and with me as always is the notorious Brian Wild.
Yo, what's up?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has been called Tarantino's love letter to 1960s Los Angeles, praising its cast and the director. In honor of this Hollywood ensemble film, we have a special guest on our show today, Mr. Lee Zimmerman.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, Lee. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Let me just first say I'm super excited to have Lee back at the Dorks and Forks studio. He came on and was part of our big show, and it's great to have him back for this film specific podcast.
Yeah, because we got onto a lot of film stuff when I was here last time. Yeah, it's my favorite thing in the whole world, my favorite art form, and I'm so happy that I got to be back. Thanks, man.
Oh, cheers, man.
And my background is I was an entertainer since art school, and I lived in L.A. for 20 years, Hollywood specifically, right there, and right next to the Hollywood Boulevard. And I soaked up that city. It's my whole city. It's not just a love letter to 1960s Hollywood. It is all of Hollywood. He loves Los Angeles, and you can see it in this film. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
Man,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. So cheers, man.
Sweet. So I guess we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. So just go around the room real quick. And what did everybody think of the film in general, Brian?
So, dare I say it's Tarantino's best film?
Yes, dare.
I feel like I was watching it last night. I kind of did a follow-up, and I feel as though this could have been Tarantino's best film when it comes to humor, when it comes to scene writing, when it comes to just its pace, its quirkiness. You know, it wasn't Tarantino like clear. You know, you watch some films and it's clearly Tarantino.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was clearly...
I feel like he took a back seat, just like the soundtrack did. And
We'll get into that.
and he let, like, kind of what Lee says is it lets Hollywood come through. And the appreciation for Hollywood. So I think as perhaps a film appreciator like you, you might not have said, but this isn't Tarantino's best film. But if you were to remove Tarantino from that aspect and looked at it for what it was.
He did lay way back this time. It didn't feel like a lot of, it was an all style, which, you know, I'm happy and comfortable. I love when he does that. Yeah. But this did have a feel like it was back on the beat just a little bit if he was on a drummer, just slightly behind the beat. It was awesome pacing and tone.
I agree.
So I guess everybody here liked it.
What, did you not?
No.
It's in contention for my favorite film of all time.
And
And it can't be better than Pulp Fiction. You know, there's no way it could possibly be better than Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better than Pulp Fiction. The only reason it's not is because there is a scene in it that, I mean, I've watched it, I gotta say, I've watched it 12 times. I was watching it when you invited me to do this. I watch it a lot.
Nice.
I just leave it as background noise.
no, that's fine.
But if there's a scene that you have to bop through, then it can't be the best film of all time. And I do think we spend a lot of time on the Western movie set. I can get moved through the parts.
Sure.
I feel like we spent a lot of time on just the movie itself.
I have to throw things at you.
Yeah, I feel like
it's fine.
I do feel like
I'm just kidding.
Maybe 10 minutes could have been shaved off that thing. 15
Sure.
minutes, maybe 2.5 hours
And he's
instead
talking
of
about
2 3/4 hours.
I think it could have been just a completely different movie.
Wow.
What didn't you like?
So my opinion of this film is it's a very watered down Tarantino movie. Like I could see Tarantino in it, but for me it looked like this is Tarantino's way of saying, okay, I want to try and win an Oscar for best movie, so I'm going to tone things down and just kind of make it subtle. And I didn't like the way it was kind of portrayed as an ensemble movie, which it clearly wasn't. It was just, Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, and everybody else kind of was wasted. I mean, Margot Robbie, I love her. Where was she?
Well,
More
importantly,
she was just the token, foot fetish model in this
boy.
movie. That's all she was.
Wow.
he's kind of true. It's kind of there was a lot of feet in this movie.
Well,
There are feet in every movie.
There's
okay?
always
Well, you
feet
can
allowed.
tell.
From
You
dusk
can
till dawn.
you can
Solid
tell.
foot. That's the most expensive lap dance in history.
And that is the only time in the movie I've ever, or any time in life, I said, you know what? I would suck on her toes because I think feet are disgusting. But Selma Hayek, I'm like, ooh,
I am so with you. Well, she was the most beautiful woman in the entire world.
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. Again, I thought it was going to be something different. I thought when this movie was billed as, his love letter to Hollywood or just Los Angeles, I thought it was going to be more about celebrity. Like there's a couple of scenes early on where they show, Margot Robbie and them at like a Hollywood party, and you see like Steve McQueen, and I thought it was going to kind of
Playboy
go
Mansion.
right. Like I thought it was going to
You've
kind of
spent
go
some
down
time
that.
there.
I knew when we were driving up. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Just when we were coming up, I was married to a Playmate of the Year. That's how we got to know Quentin Tarantino. But it was
What was your wife's name?
Deborah Jo Fondren.
Yeah.
When they get inside his Austin Healey and they're driving through the hills and they're coming up on the rock in the gate, because you got to talk to a rock in a gate. You go, hi, it's Deborah Jo Fondren and some wank. And so when we saw it, I leaned up, and I'm in Canada. I saw it 2 weeks in a row. I leaned up and I looked at all my friends. We're going to the Playboy Mansion. It was just from the rock. You knew where you're going. And yes, he captures all that. And yeah, I think you're missing out though. There's a subtext. He has people talking about actors. He has people talking about stuntmen.
Yeah.
Just little tiny things like the hitchhiker that he picks up. We're allowed to go spoiler alert. Not
Oh
sure.
no,
Oh,
we are
total
total
spoilers.
spoilers.
Totally great.
Sorry, in case we didn't mention that. Yes.
Yeah.
So Pussy is Andy McDowell's daughter.
Yes.
And she is brilliant.
I thought she was
she
great.
should win something for that.
I thought she was great, and she shined in Margot Robbie.
She dishes on actors. She says, "Oh, you're a stuntman." Well, at least they don't repeat everything. And then, Sharon's talking about directors. That actually, they bring out and assemble pretty much everything except for craft services.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got where he was going with it. I thought it was going to be something different, and what he gave me, I was just kind of bored with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh.
I was just like, okay, this is not a story about Hollywood. This is really more just a story about these two guys.
Well, almost like one guy, right? Because we were talking about how Brad Pitt was really the lead in this film.
I mean, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. He had that.
He seemed like the
he had
supporting
that
role.
Yeah, he had that one scene. When he's playing the villain and he's basically recreating his dinner table scene from Django Unchained. I'm like, wow, that's a great scene. Saw it once already in another movie.
Wait, which part was that?
When he's playing the villain and he's got the little girl.
Yeah.
And he's doing his whole long spiel.
Dick cut too.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that scene in Django Unchained at the same thing. It was at a dinner table.
Interesting. I liked all the nuanced dialogue, where it was kind of industry people watching the industry and then kind of commenting on it.
Like the player was. It was very inside on that.
Yeah, even when he was like, when later in the film when DiCaprio kind of jumps out of the back of that truck in that
FBI.
in FBI, and he's like, "Oh, that was a smooth leap.
Smooth leap.
Smooth leap."
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
and then when he
jargon,
and then
right.
when he shoots when he blasts that stuntman way, and he goes, "Oh, that's a good dude." Oh, and he names him. That's a good
Oh,
dude.
he's an asshole.
And it was like, I love that little nuanced dialogue in it, but.
Actually, but they're one character, and he tells you that in the opening shot of the film. Because when they're pulling out of Rick Dalton's house, you see them back from behind the head, of course. Brad Pitt's driving, Leo DiCaprio's sitting next to him, but the names are switched. And so Brad Pitt's name is hanging over Leo DiCaprio's head and vice versa. He's telling you right out of the box. They're interchangeable. The opening scene is, you're not seeing double.
I like that. I like that idea.
But, I mean, okay,
I like that.
that's, again, I only saw it the
Observation.
one time in the theaters, but I didn't want to see it again after that. I mean, that's
That's
all.
a good test, though.
That's all well and good, but again, like I said, the way I thought that this movie, I thought it was going to be one way and it was a different way. Like all the insider, jargon and stuff like that part I got. I thought it was cool. I don't think it's his worst movie. I definitely don't think it's anywhere near his best. It just could have been better.
Here's what I saw. I'm maturing. I saw a guy, and I hate to say that because I'm nobody to even be in that position. He and I were born the exact same year. Brad Pitt too. We were all born in 1963, and if you were born from that, it has a certain. This happened a couple years. I mean, we weren't quite aware when Sharon Tate was being murdered. We weren't quite old enough to know it. But you have to know that going into this movie. I went with a cinema student. She's 19 years old.
And she had no clue who Sharon Tate was, probably.
She was dying to ask me questions, but she's a cinema student. She knew not to talk in the theater. She told every one of her friends, you're going to love this film. Familiarize yourself with. You have to have a certain mythology going into it because it is.
Well,
it's a setup, the whole film.
Yeah, no, near the end when the Manson family went up to that house, and I was like, oh shit, if Tarantino films this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's the point of the film.
I was hoping that was going to happen.
And then he went in a whole nother.
I was hoping that they were
angle.
going to give us the payoff because the whole time, again, I was sitting there going,
payoff of seeing Sharon Tate.
Well, I just wanted to see Margot Robbie do something other than just sit in a movie theater.
I'm really glad the alternate universe that he created.
It was a gift to the
what he did with the ending. I don't have a problem with it. I thought the ending was probably one of the best parts of the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I love the ending.
I love them just,
the alternate ending. And
drugged up, tripping face off.
Tripping face Brad Pitt.
Melting some chick with a flamethrower in your pool.
She's going to be okay, though, right? I mean, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
She's okay, right?
No, she'll walk it off.
Yeah.
She'll walk it off.
Those hippies, she's probably going to feel a thing.
She's like, oh my God, my hair.
I'm going to go back to maturing because that whole film, what's he do better than anything else? He does tension. He does the beginning of Inglourious Bastards, and then he pulls the punch. You feel it, you feel it, and then he pulls the punch. Yeah. And it's just like Drago 4, Rocky 4, Drago waiting, cocking the right hand.
No, you got it right when you said Drago 4, because that movie's all about Drago.
But it is. Oh, Drago, waiting, cocking that right hand. Drago, and then, and that is the whole movie. He wants you to feel it. And when Kurt Russell starts to tell you, it's 9:46. It's 9:48, and we light up a joint, and we're singing songs. I mean, he's letting the tension. But how many times did he do that in a movie? When you meet Bruce Dern at the Spawn Ranch, everything is leading up to there's something terrible going to happen. Even Brad is walking slow. Yeah. What is the punchline? What happens if you disappoint Squeaky? No, nothing. I just don't like to disappoint Squeaky. Nothing in this movie was Tarantino-esque in that way. He kept being mature enough to say, you know what, we love Margot Robbie. We're going to let her live. We love this chick.
Yeah.
So we've been falling in love with her for 2 hours. Yeah. We're going to let her have her baby. I thought that was a guy who loves us.
But again, I was like...
But also a guy who loves cinema.
Totally.
But still, I'm like, okay,
you
let us fall in love with her, but she didn't do anything. All she literally did in that movie was
she did. She gave a ride to a hitchhiker, and you saw how she was. She was really who she was. She was not pretending to be the nicest, sweetest hippie chick with dirty feet in the Bruin Theater in Westwood. Again,
I think Margot.
I think he likes
I would have liked Margot Robbie as Andy McDowell's daughter's character. I would prefer to seen that at least so she could have done something.
Yeah.
And then so other actors that are in this like Al Pacino.
Yeah, it could have been anybody.
It could have been anybody. I think you could literally go down the cast list and say this could have been just about anybody except for DiCaprio and Pitt and the dog.
The dog was great.
And Delawarean.
The dog had more scenes and lines than Margot Robbie.
And from Delaware.
And from Delaware, the dog. I get to know those. I keep meaning to find this out. So Margot Robbie's playing Sharon Tate, but I think on screen they ran the original footage of Sharon Tate. That doesn't seem...
Well, they did.
Okay, so but that's how close her performance was. I thought that was pretty spot on.
But it was kind of a Tarantino's, he was kind of paying homage to Sharon Tate.
I think the whole thing is a gift to the Tate family in its way.
Yeah, because he was honoring what Tate did. And instead of...
You didn't capture the rolling eyes. You got to lean on the mic. We're going to see the eyes roll. Okay,
no, but
closer.
It's true.
I mean, I give Tarantino credit for the way he handled the ending because I also read that he actually, I guess, contacted Polanski's people and told them, like, look, you don't have to worry about this. Like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to celebritize this or anything like that. I mean, maybe he told him what the ending was and he's like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. I'm good with that. But... So I give him credit for the ending. The rest of the movie, I just would have liked to have seen a different movie. I didn't need to see him go to Italy. I feel like the pacing kind of went astray when
if
he
you
went.
Think about all the other Once Upon a Times in the annals of cinema,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're epics. You know, and you couldn't make Once Upon a Time in New York epic. Once Upon a Time in Mexico, not so.
You could make that epic.
you could have added another
Donkey
half
Show?
hour.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they did make that epic, just on the opposite spectrum of that epic.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the pace of it. I enjoyed how you got to travel with DiCaprio and see how this kind of washed up actor who's at the end, almost the end of his career, you know, who decides to take this opportunity.
I mean,
to do
the beginning of the movie
spaghetti
basically
westerns.
starts off with Pacino saying, "No, like, you're finished.
Yeah.
Kid, you're finished here. You need to go to Italy and hoo-ha." Like,
Really
you know.
good.
If you
So
keep-
I'm like,
Very good.
okay, that was kind of cool, like that part. And then I would have actually preferred to see him stay in the States, and I would have liked to have seen the struggle. But then it's like, nah, we're gonna go to Italy, and
Yeah, make some
things
spaghetti
go well, and I'm married, and I come back, and then shit just unfolds.
Yeah.
Well, give me an example of Tarantino at his finest. What do you think is him doing it with every muscle that he's got?
Are we talking writing or just or directing?
You can give me either one.
Okay.
'Cause if you're gonna go writing, I know what you're gonna say, and I love you for this. Go ahead.
Writing is True Romance, hands
That's
down.
pretty damn good.
It is by far one of my. It's in my
It's
top.
my favorite film.
It's my top. It's in my top 20 of favorite films of all time. And yes, I do have a list because I love lists. So yeah, in terms of writing,
Tributary question, really quick. Do you think if he directed it and he'd let Alabama die, it would have been a better film? I would have killed him. We would have freaked out.
If
When we met him, we
Alabama
would've-
would have died, I would have rioted.
I know.
I would have rioted.
So in a way, I'm glad that he didn't get to do that one, and he wouldn't let
Oh.
anybody touch Reservoir, which I'm glad he got to do Reservoir. But
Yeah.
if he had screwed with Alabama early, I'd have been so pissed.
Yeah.
and when it comes to directing, I'm still just partial to Reservoir Dogs. I don't
Okay.
know. I just really am.
Him too.
I love that film for what it is.
Him too.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I do remember him saying, and he said it in many interviews, but that's his favorite. He got annoyed because we said, we love True Romance, and then my wife really loves Jackie Brown. He goes, don't you like any of my movies where I directed and wrote them? And I'm like, so I've recited some Pulp Fiction for him, sorry.
Pulp Fiction,
Just a lot.
Pulp Fiction's a great movie too, but yes, when it comes to
It's
what
okay.
he wrote and directed, I prefer Reservoir Dogs.
What about you? What do you think Quentin at his best is?
Oh man. Well, I really
Really
liked-
everything.
I really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I love it. Oh, man. He sets it up, by the way. That's the title. Once Upon a Time, this is a fairy tale in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's double fairy tale. Absolutely anything can happen, just like in Inglourious Bastards, where we're going to let the Jews win for once.
Which
Yeah.
that's a great
Besides
movie.
me.
And that's
a
another
great movie.
great movie.
And again, a lot of people have problems with him being historically inaccurate and changing things like he did.
What,
with
David Bowie didn't come out before the Nazis?
right? But I mean, there were people that didn't like that.
Yeah.
That he because that didn't happen. I'm like, well, you were rooting for the Nazis to win, and you're rooting for Sharon Tate to get brutally murdered. Well,
I kind of like when Tarantino and Rodriguez team up.
Yeah.
You know, Dusk Till Dawn.
That's pretty
Four
awesome.
Rooms.
Four Rooms is great.
I loved
Alicia
Four
Witt, I love
Rooms,
her.
man. I loved Four Rooms.
it's all right.
No, there's some brilliant stuff in
I mean,
There's a
th-
dead
there's-
fucking whore in the mattress.
Again, there
Really
is some great stuff in Four Rooms.
Don't call her that.
But in total, as a movie, I just think it's
really
all right.
Spot on, dude. Yeah, no.
Throws up Tim Roth.
Well, it's
Awesome.
Tim Roth.
Yeah. It's Tim Roth.
See him and Rodriguez together. I think it's like two boys that there's nobody's holding the governor on that. They're just
No.
gonna go nuts. And Dusk Till Dawn shows that. To me, it's got some stuff that's just too much. But I love that film, and I'll watch it end to end, and it's the song I use for my pole dancer. It's it's the
Yeah.
greatest, sexiest
Yes, it is.
dance scene. We can. Cheers. Greatest,
Cheers.
sexiest,
Hayek.
Selma Hayek.
You know what? I
from Dusk
hate
Till Dawn.
The most
I hate
expensive
feet.
lap dance. And
I hate
most
feet.
expensive lap dance in cinema
I hate
history.
feet and I hate snakes. And yeah, that scene, I was like, I don't care. Feet and snakes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's not even nudity.
Right?
How dare she? And she does in other films, but for that one, it's just not necessary. Yeah, and
No, it wasn't.
no, it wasn't.
but George Clooney should win the Oscar just for sitting with his face this close to her ass and not biting it. He should just win the Oscar for that.
Right?
It was right there, the whole take. That wanker.
So back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood soundtrack. What do you guys think of the soundtrack? 'Cause
There was
I
a
personally-
soundtrack?
That was
Ex-
disappointing.
exactly.
That
Right?
was a little bit. I mean, it's not all my favorite stuff that he loves, but I can see where he's coming from.
It's. I mean, it's a
It's a part of the
Tarantino.
film.
It's a Tarantino movie. I expected a really good soundtrack, and
You expected this opening credit sequence to go and this big iconic song.
I
and-
just expected good music that kind of fit with the scenes like he normally does. And even if you don't have the money for certain titles, it's like he's really good at finding obscure stuff.
That's true.
That
and
fits a
he
scene.
obviates a song that how come we didn't still love that one?
Right.
Little Green Bag. I'd never
Yeah.
even heard it before.
But he
I
didn't
love
do that.
song.
He didn't do that in this one.
No, he
And I feel like Brad
Except
Pitt's
for
character-
the final scene when
Oh,
he
yeah.
pulls out Vanilla Fudge,
Yes.
which I happen to love. The drummer and the bass player for that worked with Jeff Beck.
Well, what's that? I think Franklin said the loudest. I don't fucking know. The loudest wheel tends to be the most broken. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but I feel like much like his own style includes the soundtrack. When he took a step back from this to let other things come out, he removed the soundtrack as well.
But again, I think that's part of the problem I had with the movie.
Yeah.
Is again, Tarantino, I expect a good soundtrack. And Brad Pitt spends a lot of time in this movie driving around. So I thought we
You had a
get
lot
some-
of opportunity. For
I
this.
thought we had a lot of opportunity for some really good driving
You would
music.
almost expect like Mamas and Papas. You would expect maybe some Beach Boys.
That's right. Like, give me some beach, like something.
Yeah.
Well, no,
we're
they
in
took
Los
Mamas
Angeles.
and Papas, but they gave it to Jose Feliciano.
they did.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt said he cried the first time Tarantino played him that song, that
Oh,
version.
yeah,
And
I
I was
remember
listening
that,
to
yeah.
it today, and I mean, just listening to it again. I work in one room doing my little art thing,
Yeah.
and I listen to these movies once I memorized them. And that song, fitting that scene, is pretty spectacular.
I did the same thing with Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. It would just be on the background all the time.
When I drove to California, I just put Lost in America on just the audio, so you could listen to it. If you know a film really well, it's fun to drive around and
Yeah.
just play it in your head.
Yeah.
But back on to your film. I don't want to get off topic.
That's all right.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, so we kind of all are in kind of agreement. The soundtrack was a little
Yeah, I
lackluster, maybe.
It could have been better.
It could have been better.
Could have been better, but it didn't.
It supports the film.
I don't think
I
it was
don't care
horrible.
for the circle game, but it served that scene. That
Yeah.
he's got to let you know this is a hippie chick.
Yeah.
And she's nice and she's got a good heart and she listens to Joan Baez. She must be charitable.
Right?
You listen to Joan Baez. Ugh. It's just awful. But it serves. I mean, I think it's not great. I'm not going to run out and own the soundtrack like I had to for Reservoir Dogs. Like,
Oh yeah.
Like Reservoir Dogs,
Pulp
Pulp
Fiction.
Fiction, even like Death Proof
Pulp.
soundtrack. I love Death Proof soundtrack.
Yeah, it's great.
Right? It's a great soundtrack.
Kill Bill. You got the whistling track.
Right?
He reinvented Miserlou. The opening song for Pulp Fiction, it belongs to Pulp Fiction now. Prior to that, and he goes, it's heraldic. That's the word. I remember when we were talking, he said, it's heraldic. And I just
Heraldic.
loved that word. And I had to look it up. Is that a real word? It's a real word.
Wow. I learned something new today.
Heraldic.
Heraldic.
Should I Google it?
Dick Dale.
So
Dick Dale.
what else is on your list?
Well, I mean, I guess we already kind of talked about the director. I mean, I thought this was just him. I guess it was him taking a backseat. I thought it was just him kind of a watered down Tarantino. You put it as a mature Tarantino.
I'll tell you.
Speaking of watered
Which
down,
I will put it that way. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. It's a little bit. It's a more.
He's
mature.
married now. He's killed a lot of people. He's running out of movies. He only got a couple more to do. Maybe he's not going to kill as many now. Just them filthy hippies.
yeah, he does not like hippies.
Well, you know.
What was the song that the hippies were singing when they were dumpster diving?
Oh,
And all the
that's a
girls-
real song that
Yeah.
he lifted from a documentary on the Mansons. It's
Oh,
One is one, and
Yeah.
it's really
yeah, and they were
it's
singing-
unnerving.
It is.
It's very unnerving in the way they sing it. But he lifted it from a doc on
Okay.
those ladies. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty.
all is one is forever, forever all is
And
one.
that
It's
creates
just-
all that tension.
It's creepy. Again,
Talk
you're-
about tension. You know, when Brad Pitt shows up to that ranch,
yeah,
that old producer that he did stunts for,
yeah.
and
That was a fun scene.
yeah, it was a
brilliant.
great scene.
It was a
And-
fun
Bruce Dern
scene.
is so good.
Oh, and the tension that he builds in that when he walks into the home,
I totally forgot when I
all
was
the
preparing
the
for this.
scenic painting and the woodwork and everything's
Yeah.
rotting away.
Preparing for this, I was like, okay, who the hell was in this movie again? I forget. And then I was like, oh yeah, Bruce Dern was in this movie. He was that guy. Oh yeah.
Because
I
just like the
forgot.
music, he goes and he liberates guys that we had forgotten about. I'd loved the movie Alligator, and there was this actor. And what happened to Robert Forster? He comes back, and now he's Jackie Brown. Same with Pam Grier. He
Well-
goes and he resurrects things. Bruce Dern, love Bruce Dern. Silent Running.
Well, not only re-erects old careers, but he put in Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn. She was
Right.
one of the hippies.
Right.
He also put in
Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning. He also
Rebecca
put
Gayheart.
Rebecca
Yeah, I
Gayheart.
forgot Rebecca Gayheart.
And he also put in
Rumor Willis.
Rumor Willis.
That's Bruce Willis and Demi's daughter. She
Yeah, she
plays
was in
one
it
of the
too?
house guests for Sharon.
Yeah.
Third from the end of the film.
Yeah. And what's her face? Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's kid.
I don't remember her name.
She was just in the latest season of Stranger Things. She played the Ahoy girl.
Yeah.
But she was when the Manson go up in that final scene, she's the one that chickens out, gets in the car and drives away.
That's right.
That's
She's
Ethan.
great.
She's great. And she's great in Stranger Things.
Yeah, she is great in Stranger Things.
And that's Ethan Hawke's and Uma Thurman's
Thurman's-
child,
Did you know
daughter.
that's his wife? That's Tarantino's wife. The worst performance in the film. Sorry if he ever hears this. She's the worst thing.
Well, that's
the
usually
Italian
how it
actress
works.
he marries. That's the woman that Tarantino married. I didn't know that
Which
till
one?
just like 4 days ago.
I didn't know
the
that
woman who
until just
stands
now.
up and punches the knife. That's his wife. Huh.
Stands up and punches the knife.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, the kind of Latin
his wife
girl?
is in it. She plays.
Oh, at the
Daphne.
very end, who
Yes.
comes out screaming?
Yeah, and
When
does
he pulls her out of
the
the room?
comic jump up
Yeah.
in the air with her hand.
Yeah, that was his wife, huh?
So lame. See, again, this is why it's not my favorite
Yeah.
Tarantino movie. True Romance, there isn't a frame that I would advance. Not
Yeah.
frame, but there's some stuff in this one. It's just not as solid as series. I will say one last thing, though. Where else have you ever seen a film where the crane shot is the film? It's that here you are, you're Brad Pitt, you're working on your house, but right over there in the crane shot, in the last shot of the film, we use the crane shot to show you Brad Pitt's house when we fly up over the Van Nuys drive-in. Then he uses the crane shot 2 more times to demonstrate that you're just one line away. You're one dinner party away from one pool party away from being in the next Polanski movie. I've never seen anybody do that with a crane, make it a significant character in
Yeah.
the storyline.
She kind of calls down from the intercom, like, "Oh, hey!" Like
Yeah.
like she knew who he was, and he was so flattered by it.
He's laughing to himself. Oh, come on.
so
Well,
good.
Are we liking you? You
was
liking
so
it
good.
at all with our passion? For
Well,
this?
again, like I said, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's his best work.
If
Didn't
you
you,
don't
like-
have to see it twice, you don't have to see it twice.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
At
Were
some
you
point-
upset when he came out with the flamethrower there at the end and just
I
like,
love
lit her
that.
up?
It was like,
Just
yes.
the dragon just spitting fire.
No, I loved it because he even mentioned in the very beginning, he's like, and I kept that prop. I was like, oh, nice callback to the beginning. And there it is.
Yeah.
I was surprised that it was still there considering he spent all that time in
To me,
Italy
that-
just
that-
gassed
Sure.
up
To
and
me,
worked.
that's-
But
I feel like a lot of the props were reused from Django and Inglourious Bastards. They just saved a bunch of stuff, reused it in this
well, why
movie.
not? I mean,
What was
like I
the
said,
budget for this film?
Leonardo DiCaprio reused that whole scene from Django. So why not use?
Plus, you're in the
stuff?
Tarantino universe, so everything's going to say Wasco on it. Like the Wasco, because that guy, David Wasco, or whatever the first name is, he does all their props.
Well, yes.
And so it's on the needle.
It's the red apple cigarette.
It's everything, yeah.
So here's the thing.
I almost
I
said
thought.
nails, but that's Kevin Smith. and
Yes,
his
that's
cigarettes,
Kevin
yeah.
Smith. So here's a thought that I had that would have been fun to call back and tie everything into Tarantino's little universe. So Kurt Russell's in this movie as a stuntman,
Yeah. Death proof.
It was so good.
right? But he's not stuntman Mike. He's like Jim something. I'm like, why couldn't you just call? You didn't even have to give him a last name. Just call him Mike. Would have been just a nice little callback to a movie.
Which would be classic Quentin to do
Right?
that. We
Classic-
all live in this other little
Right?
Tarantino pile.
I thought that was an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have to say, really, like you had to make Bruce Lee look like a douchebag.
That was weird. And it's so I would have never guessed Tarantino. I mean, he loves kung fu movies so
right?
much.
Like you're gonna make
Not my thing at all.
Bruce Lee look like a
I
douchebag.
couldn't believe it.
Oh, my hands are registered deadly weapons. If I kill somebody, I go to jail for it. And he's like, yeah, I know.
Anybody. It's
I'm
called
like,
manslaughter. Yeah, I
right?
love that.
I love that part, but I was like, really, you're gonna do that to Bruce Lee? Like, yeah,
Yeah, that was
I
weird.
don't see Bruce Lee doing that.
No, that was very weird and completely out of character. It just, yeah, I thought she was bad too, the wife. But I heard a criticism that having the randomness of Kurt Russell suddenly being our narrator just in the last third of the film. Well, he did that with Inglourious Bastards. All of a sudden, Samuel L. Jackson jumps in
Yep.
and starts talking over David Bowie, cat people.
And that part I don't have a problem with because that's just
That's him.
That's what a Tarantino film
He's
does.
loud.
He throws weird, random things at you at
God bless him.
parts. I just feel like, when he was doing this whole linear story, I was just like, Yeah, it just wasn't tracking for me.
It's so funny. You thought an ensemble piece. I guess they were selling it as that, and it isn't.
That's what
it's
it was.
Three concurrent stories.
They were billing it as an ensemble piece because I mean even now like when they still show like commercials for it, you know, you see Pitt, you see DiCaprio, you see Margot Robbie, they show you Al Pacino, and it's like okay, why are you even showing me Al Pacino? Because he's only in what maybe 7 minutes of it, something like that. And again, you have a long list of actors that are in this that don't really just, it's like, did you really need any of these people?
Yeah, I think he finds places for people that he really loves.
Well, I mean,
it seems like it, right?
Well, of course. Michael Madsen was in it.
Yeah. Oh God, he finds a place for that guy.
He finds a place for Michael Madsen.
Still feels bad about Vincent Vega,
right?
He still feels bad about not being able to give him that.
Oh, if only we could have got the Vega Brothers movie.
I want that movie.
I wanted that movie.
Do you know
so
what
bad.
I heard? Something really stupid though. And Tarantino does this. First of all, he's going to release an even longer version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I have a life, and I love you, Quentin. Please don't do that. But even worse, he's going to direct at least 2, possibly 3 episodes of Bounty Law, which I do not need.
Wow.
I don't need that. Please don't do that. Please leave stuff alone. I don't need True Romance Part 2, The Awakening.
Right? Now we're following their kid.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Elvis. No, I wouldn't. No, I'm with you.
You guys were talking about Bruce Lee, played by Mike Moe.
He's pretty darn good.
Yeah, 36. He's from Georgia. He's a 5th degree black belt. He's best known for his Street Fighter webisodes.
Street Fighter webisodes.
He nailed it.
Not Street Fighter the movie, but
No.
I love that scene.
But
though.
he's a stuntman.
He challenges Brad to a fight.
and Brad Pitt holds his own against Bruce Lee.
But first he takes off his hairpiece, which is the exact same hair underneath. That's a great joke. There's so many things. Again, I think there's a ton of industry stuff in there.
Yeah.
He takes care of his guys. He's the stunt core. That's a very inside thing that stunt people are very much a brotherhood. No, I take care of my guys.
Oh yeah.
And I think they have a lot of stuff in there, except craft services. They register. They don't do editors. Go ahead.
No, they didn't do editors.
But they do touch on a lot of stuff. He loves the industry more than anybody else.
And if he would have continued with that whole part of it, that whole aspect, again, I was looking for more of the actual, like, the Hollywood part, like, on the movie sets, behind the scenes, at the parties. Again, it just felt like it was just a story of these two guys.
He gave you some moments with actors that, you know, I revered. Like the little girl, I don't know.
She was really good.
They dig her up. But the dialogue in that, it's, as an actor, it's not, of course, you never achieve excellence, but it's the pursuit that has meaning.
Right,
all that
she
stuff
was
is
great.
actor stuff.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
was
And
like,
the
oh.
dialogue is brilliant.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I do love about Tarantino's. He does usually great dialogue.
He said that once. That was one of the other things that we did talk about. He said, well, the one thing that I can do, I'm allowed to say, I write really good dialogue. And I thought, yeah, I think we're going to allow you to say that. That's fine.
Well, hey, dialogue is hard to write. I mean, it's hard to make a character and then make them sound believable on paper.
He makes it
first of all.
effortless.
He makes it effortless.
And that's how you know it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it looks like anybody could do it, but it's not. Where else are you going to get 2 hitmen talking about hamburgers on their way to work and find that interesting? Nobody else could make that interesting.
Yeah,
and he said that's the whole movie.
And you got nothing else to add to this conversation, Marvin? Bam! Like, I shot Marvin in the face. Whoops. Just nonchalant.
That's the other thing. He likes Disney in this movie. What's he doing like in Disney? He has Mirabelle say, he's a genius, like a once-in-a-lifetime. Bullshit. I hate Disney.
Well, I guess
hate that
Disney's got their streaming services, and they buy everything. So eventually
Yeah.
Tarantino will be owned by Disney, just like the rest of us in this world.
Maybe they're the reason for the Bruce Lee dish. Why'd they dish on Bruce Lee? That makes absolutely no sense.
That was the thing we were just talking
Do you
about.
not
Why?
think that's how he was in real life?
No.
I'd never heard that.
Well, I kind of like he
saw a
kind
doc,
of
it
started
was pretty
talking
awesome.
like he was telling everyone. I feel like he would demand attention from people around him, and he's basically telling these people about what early almost MMA is, right? Combat sports, But he's kind of laying it on thick. And at that point, wasn't he just? He was just. They were filming Green Hornet. Right in that scene, that's what that was, right? Green Hornet. So that was before Bruce Lee was really Bruce Lee.
He was known. I mean, you also got to remember that when he was doing that prior to Green Hornet, he had his kung fu studios up and running. A lot of Hollywood celebrities were learning kung fu from him.
Yeah, so he's a
McQueen.
mentor.
Yeah, McQueen.
I totally found.
Lee Marvin.
I found that completely believable. I could see Bruce Lee talking to people and kind of laying
Talking
it on.
and acting like a douche are two different things.
But you bring up another little glorious thing. He just tosses it out there for a split second. You get to find out that Bruce Lee coached Sharon Tate through the scene where she beats up Nancy Kwan. I thought that's pretty awesome. That they just, it's a flash. He just gives it away. If you're paying attention, you get this extra little bonus, by the way.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee taught Sharon Tate how to kick Nancy Kwan's ass in Mad Home movies.
So, where does this movie rank, I guess? I mean, we kind of hinted at it, but in terms of the pantheon of Tarantino films, and by Tarantino films, I include the ones that he wrote and directed. For me, out of, I think it's 14 films, I have this as like 13.
After you, sir.
No, you go.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's in competition for the best film he's done yet. Just because, for me, I mean, my old building is in it. I see so many things in there that make me want to go home. And when I saw Pulp Fiction, Deborah and I saw that Deborah Jo and I are sitting and watching Pulp Fiction. We didn't talk for the half hour. We lived right near the Chinese theater. We walk out of the Chinese theater. We lived just a few blocks. And we could not speak. And this film left me there. I was sitting in my chair in the theater, and all my friends had already gotten up and left, and I'm like, I got to move back to Los Angeles. This film was almost an epiphany. So it's in my top 2 Tarantino films and in my top 2 films of all time.
Wow, man, definitely okay. And you, Brian?
Out of Tarantino films,
Yes.
I got to say top 3.
What would you say your other top 2 are?
Man, it's got to be probably Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. I like the first Kill Bill. I like the action in it. I like the way it was shot. I remember they wanted to give it like an NC-17 rating.
That's why it went. That's why it went black
so they
and
went
white.
black and white, and they went with the blood. But damn, last night I was rewatching it to prep for the show, and I was thinking, man, this might be Tarantino's best film.
It's got so many brilliant things in it.
There's
I
so
understand
many
where you're
things.
coming from on it.
Yeah.
I will say this: I might have to watch it again.
And Django was great.
I was
it's so
gonna-
hard. It's hard to
I-
place.
I
this,
love Django.
but it's up there because Django might be my number 2 favorite.
Okay, this is crazy.
I'm gonna say this might be
I
number
saw
1.
Django for the first time ever last week. And it's because, I'm in a heavy Tarantino mode, and I'd always just to shoot it because there's this little window right after Kill Bill. I was like, dude, come back to me. When you're coming back to me, let me know. And for me, this last film is back to Pulp Fiction, full muscle. But I finally saw Django, and let me tell you, it's brilliant.
It's great.
got some
It's
great
great.
stuff
It's
in
a
it.
great movie.
Christoph is just genius.
Amazing. That opening scene.
Like I said, that opening scene right there is just one of those
The tension
scenes in
building.
movies where you watch it. It's
and they're down in the basement.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's one of those scenes like you talk about like the Fredo scene in like Godfather 2,
Sure.
the Indianapolis scene in Jaws.
Sure.
Like, I felt like that opening scene in Django Unchained was one of those scenes that you just remember it. It's just like,
You can isolate it, too.
Yeah, it was just like
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Just like True Romance, you can isolate the Sicilian scene. I mean,
Oh,
that's
that
its own
scene.
movie
Oh
on
my
its own.
God.
Just take that and stick it as its own film.
Right? Who doesn't want to see Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper just go back and
And the
forth?
backstory on that, too.
Well, did you see what
Right.
what Tarantino just did for Netflix, where he took Hateful Eight, to release an extended version of it, but then broke it up into 4 episodes. So it's 4 hours long. And I tell you, that first hour is basically them in a stagecoach.
And I think
That
that is
scene,
his worst
is
movie.
you're like, whew.
I've tried to watch Hateful Eight 3 different times, and all
sometimes-
3 times I have fallen asleep.
I don't know. I've been giggling a little bit. That movie had me giggling a little bit. It's these comedies. It's like him. Now he's getting kind of later in his career. He's just making fun.
Hey, if I could get
Kinda
through
comedies.
the movie without falling asleep, maybe
Yeah.
I'd have a different opinion.
I wonder what he's going to do to wrap it all up, because the last one has to tie them all together. It has to be a through line that pieces it all together. I'd heard a horror film was in his quiver.
He hasn't even done one yet.
That's what a rumor was, though. This
That
last
would be
one was going to be a
interesting.
horror film.
It'd be, hey,
Because Dusk Till Dawn, you couldn't call that a horror film. What would you call that?
Well, that was a horror comedy.
yeah, it was kind of a horror comedy.
Just like this is a drama comedy, dramedy.
I don't know what.
Because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a total comedy.
You see, you're
It's
making
almost
me
like
love this film.
it's almost like how Orson Welles thought Citizen Kane was a comedy. Like he wrote it. And
Did he
thought-
really?
Yeah.
He really thought.
I'd never heard that.
Yeah, he did.
He thought it was a comedy. Like he wrote it. It was like, this is hilarious.
Which is the opposite of Strangelove, because he set out to make a movie about nuclear war, and he goes, "This is too funny."
Yeah, right. And there's that scene in Citizen Kane where the camera kind of comes through, and she's kind of after they divorce. This is his young girl that he was dating after his
Famous
wife.
movie.
And there was this part where this parrot squalled. I'm sorry, it's been a long time. I'd have to like brush up on it, but this parrot quawed. And Orson said he put it in there because he thought the movie had been lagging at that point, and he needed something to wake the audience up. It's the whole reason why that parrot squalled.
It's Orson Welles.
Wells.
Yeah, the man that could sell frozen peas.
I think
to
something
everybody.
in the future. I would love to
Such
do.
a pest.
I would love to do Hateful Eight, the 4 hour long
Well, you
extended version.
do realize at some point we have to do a movie that I like.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Touche.
This is podcast number 2, and so far I'm like, oh my god.
He's
I'm telling you,
0 for 2.
Master 6. You got to see this.
I told you I didn't see 1 through 5. I'm gonna be lost.
This is, well, it does kind of stand on its own, and the Sicilian scene in Master 6 is also very good.
Wow,
And it ties it all together.
It ties it all together.
All the loose ends in Ass Master 4.
But why was Samuel L. Jackson narrating that one, too? I could see plain as day what was happening.
Well, you know, Samuel L. Jackson, he's in everything.
He is in everything.
He is.
Right.
He says yes to everything. He could say no to something.
Well, I don't think he says yes. I think he goes, hell yeah, I'll be in the movie.
Yeah. So all right, this is our grading system. I think we're at the point now.
Yes, I think we're at the point where we grade it.
Because it is Dorks and Forks. I mean, Dorks and Forks. So probably where we give it out of how many forks? Up to 4 being the best.
4 forks.
He gave it. He gave the Joker 1
Bent fork lying on the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how much he loved the Joker.
That's really funny, though. You got to give it to him for
Oh, yeah,
creativity.
totally.
I might like that more than the movie when I finally see the movie.
So you're 4 forks up.
I got to say, for me personally, it was an epiphany. So I don't know. It's difficult for me to be objective.
Yeah.
I thought it was the ultimate. I love movies. I love Hollywood. This is it. This is why we love it. Go ahead.
And that's why I insisted you come and be on this episode.
Thanks so much, man.
I'm going to say 3.5 forks because there are some scenes that kind of drag a bit that you could have been like, meh. That I found myself kind of in my phone, kind of looking at some things.
Look what, man.
I can't
For me, it's
remember.
that Western film.
Yeah.
That's why it can't be my favorite Tarantino movie. It's got something that I fast forward through. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think
kinda hear you on
there's
that
a lot
one.
of scenes that I just was like, it
By
doesn't
the
need
way,
it.
who's the 90210 act, Beverly?
Luke Perry.
He was in it. I mean, how cool is that? That he
It was
finally
his-
makes
it
it.
was- it was
on
his
way
last
out the
movie,
door.
right?
On the way out the
That's
door.
pretty awesome.
But
And
again-
a Quentin thing to do.
Yeah.
But again, a forgetful character that you forgot was even in it for the
I,
most part.
I barely remembered. And I have damage.
But I tell you what, like, the ending of this film, I absolutely loved. From the point where the fucking dog, 6 balls, to the point where he takes that dog food can and he just chucks it,
yeah.
and he's tripping balls, and like,
I like it
the
better.
whole thing.
Even the
And he-
can opener,
and
when
she-
he's seeing trails on the can opener, that's pretty good
And
too.
then she like runs out the door, and DiCaprio's out in the pool, and she comes crashing out, and he's got a stein, a margarita or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Man, I was telling Heather, I was like, if we're rich, that would be me. Out in the pool
With
late
a
at night
flamethrower?
with
With a flamethrower.
with bought by one of Elon Musk's flamethrowers that he sold. I'd have the stein of margarita, and I would just be chilling out with some headphones, listening to the radio out
Burning
in the pool, man.
hippies.
Burning hippies.
Just smoking a doobie.
Burning hippies.
Burn-
Back to your
hippies.
soundtrack thing, because he did. That was a weird choice for a song, is the Red Baron. Again, I think he was going for this is obscure and weird, and you haven't thought of it in a long time, as opposed to this is obscure and awesome. And don't you remember how great Stuck in the Middle with You is? And then
Right.
immediately went, that's right, this is a classic. And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm done.
Get a little passionate.
It's all right. I'm done. I was done talking. I said my piece. Jay, did you give it? Jay's
No,
score?
I didn't hate this film as much as I hated the Joker. So I will give it.
You sound so much like Siskel and or Ebert. That's how they would say, oh, I didn't hate this anywhere near as much as that piece of shit.
Now I feel bad.
Beyond the Valley of Dolls you wrote, Roger.
So I will give this 1 fork and a salad fork.
Wow.
Oh, a salad spork.
Now we'll go a whole salad fork. So basically like 1.5 forks.
And I will stab you in the head with that very same
man.
fork.
That's
How
right.
dare you? No, I'm just kidding, but I understand.
Yeah, maybe my opinion will change if I watch it 27 times.
You know, sometimes films are just ahead of us.
It's
First
some-
time I watched Napoleon Dynamite, it was so far behind the beat. I did not get it, and I just wanted to see the dance sequence again, so I went back and saw the dance sequence, and I fell in love with this movie, and I realized the movie was ahead of me. I heard Woody Allen say that about Kubrick. He said, when I saw 2001, I hated it. And 6 months later, a woman had told me at a party to go and watch it again. He goes, I love this quote. it was one of the few times that the artist was ahead of me, and it took me a little while to catch up. And I thought that's a great way to put it. Sometimes movies are just out of reach.
And we just got a comparison between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have issues.
That's why I love him.
Wow.
That's why I love him.
Wow.
Well, Jay, I think that's it. I think that's a podcast. We're, he was like, "Oh, we're only going to do 15 minutes for the show. We're at 44 right now."
I wanted to keep it somewhat semi-structured, but that's what
and you did. You did a really good job.
Yay!
That
Hooray!
was really fun. Thank
Yeah.
you. Real good.
Well, he's going to wrap it up.
Well, yeah, I might as well give up my little spiel here. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank my guest, Lee Zimmerman.
Oh, this was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, man.
And you got anything brewing coming up in the
You wanna
near
plug
future?
anything?
You want to shamelessly promote yourself?
You've got to go to my website and see all the cool credits I had before I left Los Angeles to help my mom out. Yeah,
You are the puppet- you are the puppet guy.
www.thepuppetguy.com. Just go there. I worked for Seinfeld's Final Rap Party. I worked for The Drew Carey Show. I worked for Quentin Tarantino, for God's sake. Playboy Mansion. I have some great videos. Please go to my website and just go.
Maybe we should do once we stop this, we could do supplement features and just hear some stories.
Right.
And I'll just put it up.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So be sure to drop a like on our channel, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the little bell button to get notifications.
And also let us know if you guys want to hear Lee Zimmerman come back and talk about some movies.
I definitely do.
Thanks.
Yeah, because then maybe I could just kind of kick back and then you guys go at it.
This
For
is
a while.
Right?
great. This is
Yeah,
great.
you were great.
I love how your dogs cooperated too. They both decided to let you do your podcast.
Heather went downstairs and she's got them both.
She's the calming,
She is.
Yeah.
She is. She
Thank
cooked.
you.
She made us some food and
right?
got us some drinks and took care of the dog. She's awesome.
So yeah, awesome stuff.
Thank you.
And drop a comment. Maybe tell us tell us a movie that maybe you'd like us to review.
Yeah, we'll do it.
And I've got some ideas since
I think we were trying to think about what Oscar stuff.
True.
If what's available, maybe we could even vlog where we go to the movie theater and
Well, so far out of everything else that has been nominated for the Oscars, I've seen, other than Joker and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I saw Jojo Rabbit, and I've seen 1917, and I might go see Parasite Saturday.
Intrigued by all three of those, and I've heard
haven't seen any of
Parasite's
them.
genius. What do you think of those three films?
I haven't seen Parasite yet.
What do you think of the other two?
19.
It's
Sure
a whole
looks
nother
good.
story, whole nother show.
I'll say
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
it's okay. I don't hate them.
Should I see any one of those three titles?
Yes.
You don't know about Parasite yet?
I don't know about Parasite yet.
What about which of the two? 1917 or...
Jojo Rabbit's
Jojo.
about young Nazis or something.
Yes.
That looks really
looks
awesome.
really
it looks
funny.
like Wes Anderson awesome.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like. So if you want a fun story, go see Jojo Rabbit. If you want to be impressed by just, cinematography, go see 1917.
I heard that editing was real sloppy in 1917. You told me that.
No.
You said the editing where you could tell when they kind of
I
had to
said
take
if-
a break
Well,
because
I said
he
if
was
you were
breathing heavy.
familiar with how movies are shot, because the movie's built as being shot in one continuous shot. So I said if you know how kind of movies work, you could kind of tell where okay, this is where we took the break in the shot.
All right.
You're misquoting me, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. And also, if you guys liked it, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And also, don't forget to turn on notifications by clicking that little bell icon.
That's right.
Right? And
Feel free to ring our bell.
we'll see you next time on the In Case You Missed It podcast.
Peace.